Hey, it's Garrick with Eco-Stylist, and today we're going to talk about how a former sustainable fashion leader, Naadam, lost their Eco-Stylist certification. Now, Naadam is a US-based brand that became famous for their more affordable but luxury cashmere pieces, as well as their provocative marketing. This is a brand that when we rated them in 2023, they earned our certification, they passed our criteria, they were doing all kinds of great stuff. They were transparent about their supply chain, they promised living wages across their supply chain by 2025, they promised ethical partnerships with their partners in Mongolia where they sourced the cashmere, and they gave back to those communities in Mongolia where they sourced their cashmere. But then something happened, and this is that story. In this video, I'm going to cover three main things. First, I'm going to talk about our 2023 rating and certification of Naadam. Then I'll talk about our updated rating of Naadam in 2025, where you'll see their score changed dramatically. And then finally, I'm going to talk about why and how they changed. Let's get into it. So before we talk about how Naadam lost their Eco-Stylist certification and how their score fell dramatically, let's talk about where their score was in 2023 when they earned our certification and all the good things they were doing then. Okay, so right off the bat, their score in 2023 was 56 out of 100 points, which is a earned certified rating. At Eco-Stylist, we have three tiers. So we have certified, and then the next higher tier, if they earn more points, is silver, and our highest tier is gold. The certified range is 50 to 60 points out of 100. And then the silver range is that 60 to 70 range, and then 70 and above is the gold range. Now, a quick note, if you're not familiar with our criteria, is 56 out of 100 points may not sound like a lot to you, especially if you're thinking of the American grading system where 90 out of 100 points is an A, and so you're like, oh, it's only 50 points. But actually, 50 points and above is quite high. Very few brands earn our certification. The vast majority of the brands fail, including those that position themselves sustainably. So our criteria really sets a high bar for where brands should be and where we want brands to be leading in the fashion industry. And so 50 points and above is an excellent score no matter where they fall in those three tiers I mentioned, certified, silver, gold. The reason for the discrepancy and the reason almost no brand has a score of 90 or above, for example, is that our criteria is designed to leave room for improvement always, right? So it's not designed, we don't hand out hundreds out of hundreds, perfect scores, and then where brands don't have any room to improve. There's always room to improve and do more in our criteria because sustainability is a journey and not a destination. So let's talk about how Naadam earned their 56 points in our criteria. So with the first pillar, transparency, they earned about half of the possible points there. So they earned 7 out of the 14 points for transparency. And the way that they did that was by sharing information. Like, for example, they shared videos. They gave you behind the scenes look at parts of their supply chain and shared important information about parts of their supply chain. They also shared information on their website, like they had an impact report. And so they shared a lot of really important details like that, which earned them the points that they had. Now, I will say the one thing they didn't have, which is normally where brands earn points in transparency, is they didn't share a factory list, for example. And that's normally the first thing we're looking for with transparency is a factory list, which would be where the final production happens. So with clothing, this would be where are the sweaters sewn, for example, right? In the transparency section, we also look for that type of factory list, but for the other parts of the supply chain. So for the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, basically the steps before the final production, for example, where are the fabrics sourced from, where are raw materials turned into fabrics, where are the fabrics dyed, things like this. So sharing a factory list that has all of those parts of the supply chain, as well as where the brand is in their traceability journey, in terms of have they traced all their supply chain, have they traced 80% of it, and then what are their goals for improvement. So those are typically the things we're looking for in transparency, and those were the areas for improvement for Naadam. Those were the things we didn't find actually. But like I said, they still earned half the points for the information that they did share. The next category is fair labor, like I mentioned, and they also scored about half of the possible points in that category. So that category, it's 33 points, and they scored about half of the possible points there. And the way they did that was through a few things. One was auditing their factories regularly. Some other ways is promising benefits to the makers as well. So benefits being things like healthcare, for example. And they also earned points in fair labor for giving back to the community. So they source all their cashmere from Mongolia, and they talked about how they gave back to those communities in Mongolia. And so that's how they earned points there in the fair labor section. One big area for improvement for Naadam in fair labor is, of course, living wages. They did not earn the 9 points there for guaranteeing living wages for the majority of their makers. They didn't have enough information on their website about that, but they did have a goal to ensure living wages for their entire supply chain by 2025. So it was obvious that it was something they were working on at that point, and they claimed that by 2025 they were going to be there. As you might guess, when we reevaluated them in 2025, they were not there, but we'll talk about that later. But I just wanted to point out that in 2023, this was an area for improvement for Naadam. And then finally, we have the third pillar, sustainably made, and this is where they earned the most points. Naadam earned 34 out of a possible 45 points in this category, and they earned those points from doing a variety of things. They had, first of all, they had a sustainability page with sustainability goals, things they're working on. They shared their impact report. They had initiatives to reduce their carbon emissions. The majority of their fabrics were sustainably sourced as well, and they also ensured human rights protection for those raw materials that they sourced. So basically, Naadam was doing a lot of things, sustainable packaging. So they were doing a lot of things in the sustainability realm, and you could find information about that, like I mentioned, in their impact report, on their sustainability page, and in their goals. So that information was all there for you to find. I'm going to show you some information here that you'll see regarding Naadam's sustainability page from 2023. Now, you may be wondering how I'm showing you Naadam's website from the past, right? Like, how am I showing you footage of Naadam's website from 2023, which is where you can see that they had an impact report. You can see that their sustainability page was robust. You can see their sustainability goals. I'm showing you all this information they had on their website in 2023, and you may be wondering how I'm showing you this. I'm using this nonprofit website called Wayback Machine, and this allows you to pull up past versions of a website. It archives the internet, essentially, right? And this is super useful, obviously, because, like, for example, right now, Naadam's sustainability pages and their sustainability initiatives changed dramatically from 2023 to 2025. Like, spoiler alert, a lot of this information that I'm showing you that we can see in 2023 is not on their website in 2025. And so Wayback Machine is a super useful resource for being able to see that difference. Like, we can see their website obviously now in 2025, but being able to see it in 2023 and be able to compare, and also being able to see, being able to see how different it was. And you can see why and how we certified them as well based on all that information they had in 2023. And then you can look at 2025 and see how much it's changed. Quick note, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel. Your support really helps us grow, and we really appreciate you a lot. So now, let's talk about Naadam's 2025 sustainability rating and how much it changed. So when we reevaluated Naadam in 2025, they scored just 4 out of 100 points. This is a huge, dramatic fall for a brand that formerly had 56 points and was formerly certified with our criteria. And you may be wondering what happened. Now, like I mentioned, we have a companion blog article about this, and you can see there the exact changes. You can see their score from 2023, the score from 2025, and you can compare those differences. But I'm going to explain it quickly here for you, obviously, as well. So you may be wondering how their score fell so dramatically from 56 points in 2023 to 4 points in 2025. And the most simple way to explain it is complete backtracking and erasure on all of their sustainability programs. If you look at their sustainability website in 2025, which I'm going to show you here right now, you're going to see that it's very, very different from what it was in 2023. They no longer have an impact report like they did in 2023. They no longer share their sustainability goals like they used to. In fact, in 2023, as I showed you, they had goals for things they were going to achieve by 2025. And now those goals are gone, right? It's like they were supposed to meet those things by 2025, and they've just completely erased them. So not only not meeting the goals, but just erasing their existence. We don't know their progress on the goals, right? They're not sharing their shortcomings. It's all gone. If you look at their sustainability page from 2025, which I'm showing you now, this is a glorified shopping page. It shares very little information. It tells you very little about their sustainability. And then it's just like, hey, go here to shop. Hey, go here to shop. And so really, like, this is a shell compared to what it used to be. And this is really, sad to see such a big decline, especially from a brand that used to be doing so well. If you want to know the exact breakout of Naadam's 2025 score, like how they earned the 4 out of 100 points that they did earn, definitely the best resource there is going to be check out the companion blog article I mentioned, which is going to be linked in the description. You can see the full breakout of their score and the explanation for it there. But to give you a quick explanation of their score now, essentially they had 14 points out of 100 from their former 56. And this was from retaining a very small number of things they're still doing. Like I mentioned, most of the things, as you can see, are completely gone, but they still do a few things. Like, for example, they still retained, 6 points, for example, for having a majority of their fabrics be sustainably sourced things, like their sustainably sourced cashmere and organic cotton. And things like that. So this took the score all the way down to 14 from what it used to be. And then they also did receive a penalty in our criteria. We have 3 principles, which we use to help us ensure that we're always recommending the best brands to you, that we're recommending leaders in sustainable fashion, that we're recommending brands to you that we truly believe in. And these 3 principles are, is the brand fast fashion? Do we trust the brand, and does the brand inspire us? And in the case of Naadam, they took a hit here. We give them -10 for do we trust the brand? Because the answer there was no, obviously. And the reason for that is, complete backtracking and erasure of all their sustainability initiatives. It's pretty hard to trust them, right? It's like they promised us all this stuff by 2025, and now it's all gone, right? It's all gone. And honestly, some of the points that they did earn even, like those 14 points, before the penalty, like I mentioned, some of those things, it's even a bit hard to trust if that's accurate anymore. Because, for example, like the way that they source their cashmere sustainably is through, their cooperation with the Sustainable Fashion Alliance. And we don't really know anymore. Like, it can be as, you would assume they're still part of that, right? Because these things are still mentioned, but we don't really know for sure, right? So even the information that's there now, it's a bit hard to trust just given how much they've backtracked and regressed and that they're not sharing anymore. So we don't really know like what they're doing anymore, and it may be even less, than it appears. Okay, so now that we've shown you Naadam's 2023 sustainability score when we certified them, and we've shown you how they lost their certification and how much their score fell in 2025, let's talk about how and why this happened with Naadam. Now, I must say, this is a very curious case with Naadam, right? A lot of times when something like this happens, you might expect that they sold the company, that there was an acquisition, that there was a change of leadership. In fact, that was exactly the case with another brand that recently lost their Eco-Stylist certification, Scotch and Soda. I'll have that video linked here for you in the cards in case you want to check that one out as well. But in the case of Scotch and Soda, they also had a dramatic fall of their score and they lost their certification, and it was because of an acquisition. Well, in the case of Naadam, that's not what happened at all. We don't really know why this happened, right? It's like there wasn't an acquisition. It's the same CEO. It's the same CEO that started Naadam with the sustainability mission in mind, right? But what we do know, what we can see, which is really obvious, is that they've completely backtracked and quietly erased their sustainability programs. And that's why we're calling attention to this and why we're calling attention to Naadam now. I mean, obviously, we removed Naadam, right, because we no longer want to certify them because they're no longer a brand that passes our criteria that we believe in, that we want to promote to you. But we also want to call attention to this because, like I said, this wasn't something loud or dramatic or any big thing happened. They just quietly erased their programs, right? And so it's really important to call attention to that because a lot of people aren't going to know, right? Like, it's like Naadam began and has been benefiting from their sustainable reputation that they built from the beginning. And so it's important to call out and let this story be known, like, hey, Naadam's not the brand it used to be, they've changed. So please, if you know people who shop Naadam, if you shop Naadam yourself, please share this video. So while we don't know why Naadam changed so much, we do know that they've changed, right? We do know that Naadam has regressed and backtracked on their sustainability programs. And the best analogy I can give you for what happened to Naadam is desertification. And this is pretty ironic given that it's a brand focused on cashmere. If you don't know, the biggest sustainability concern with cashmere is desertification, right? Cashmere comes from goats, and the biggest sustainability concern with those goats is that if they're not managed sustainably, they can contribute to desertification in Mongolia, right? Which is really bad for the planet. Now, formerly, Naadam managed these risks regarding desertification in Mongolia through their partnership with the Sustainable Fashion Alliance. This partnership helped make sure that the herding of these goats for the cashmere was done sustainably in order to not contribute to and to reverse desertification in Mongolia, right? But unfortunately now, that's one of those things where we don't even know if they're still active in doing that, right? With all their regression and backtracking, it's really unclear what Naadam is still doing today. And so ironically, desertification is exactly what happened to Naadam's sustainability programs. They used to have all this information and have these robust initiatives, and now it's completely barren. It's all gone. But obviously, it's not all bad news. I share this information with you so that we can help hold brands accountable and so that we can help promote the leaders in sustainable fashion. And if you want to support the leaders in sustainable fashion, we still certify over 100 brands at Eco-Stylist in our brand guide. So definitely, if you want to find sustainable, ethical alternatives to Naadam, check out our brand guide. I'll have the link for that in the description. And there you can search, like I said, over 100 great sustainable alternatives to Naadam that are still leading in sustainable fashion and are not abandoning or regressing or backtracking on their initiatives. If you're wondering which shirt I'm wearing in this video, this is an organic cotton Oxford shirt from the brand Vustra. We actually made another video quite a while ago where we review and talk about Vustra, so I'm going to have that video linked here for you in a card so that you can check that out as well if you're interested. I hope you found this video helpful. If there's a brand you'd like us to look into, let us know that brand in the comments, and it just might be our next video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, dress like you give a damn.